Hi guys, I'm Krista and this is my big sister Stacey and this is Sister's Social Call.
We are two sisters talking about everything that sisters talk about. Welcome to our lives. Well, hey, sissy.
Hey, sis. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good.
Awesome. We want to welcome all of our listeners back to Sister's Social Call and say a special hello to all of our new listeners. I'm Stacey. I'm one half of the mighty sister duo here, and this is my sister Krista.
Hey, guys.
And today we're going to be talking about something we all are going to experience if we're not already deep in the weeds of it, and that is aging parents. When I was thinking about doing this episode, I was like, where does one even start for this subject? Like, for real. And I think that's actually probably where most of us feel right now is, where do I even start with this conversation with my parents? There's so many things to talk about with aging parents. And I actually think this will probably lead us into a series of us having chats about aging parents. This could be something about money, their assets, housing, where are they going to live, their health, their wills, their power of attorney, funeral arrangements. Like, the list seems endless. And so the question of where do we even start, I think, is exactly what we're living through. Like, where do we even start? Christine and I aren't experts in this topic, but I'm going to tell you a long story, actually. And I'm surprised it's actually taken us to the 26th episode for me to actually share this with you. But in my 20s, I was living with Granny and Grandpa. And we've talked about our grandparents quite a bit on Sister's Social Call. And while I was doing my Bachelor of Arts degree at the U of R, University of Regina, Grandpa made me the executor and power of attorney for them. I didn't know what that meant. I was in my 20s. I didn't, it wasn't even on my radar in the least bit. And I willfully said yes to this, but I had no idea what it meant. And nor did I have any clue what their estate and their needs actually were, or how they wanted to age. And I'm sure in a future episode, we'll delve into the legal responsibility of being an executor and power of attorney. But for today's episode, just know that that was delegated to me. And then when I was in my early 30s, Grandpa had dementia, Alzheimer's, and it became really evident to me that I needed to get a handle on the estate. So that meant like their finances, their businesses, their personal state, like trying to understand what it is that they had. And it was incredibly complex. I recognized that this isn't common what they had in their estate. Like, they had a couple of corporations. They held property in the United States. They had a commercial property. They had a property that was contaminated that needed to be environmentally remediated, and they still own their own house. And they had investments. So really, really complex. And Grandpa's record keeping, bless him, left a lot to be desired. Some of his records were at home, and some of his records were at work. So it made me do like the biggest puzzle of my life, but I had no picture of what that puzzle looked like. The first thing I'm thinking about for my aging parents, my in-laws, our friends' parents, everybody around us, is to start streamlining your life. I'll give you a couple examples. When I started gathering Grandpa's papers, I started putting together a picture of what was in their estate that needed to be dealt with. It was unearthing things and then going and dealing with them. So the first one is, Grandpa had a safety deposit box. And we went to the bank and there was nothing in it. He had been paying on a safety deposit box. We have no idea for how long. And I can't actually remember the last time he went there before that, but it had been years. That's what I do remember. So that was some pretty low hanging fruit that Granny and I were able to deal with right away, was to close the safety deposit box. But that's kind of like the things that I'm talking about, streamlining your life. Another one, Grandpa owned a piece of property in Texas. And I would love to know much more about this story. I always did, but it was just too late to ask Grandpa about it. But what I do know is that they had a house in California. Grandpa sold the house, devastated my granny. And I thought he was like looking at property in Arizona, but ended up buying a piece of property in Texas to grow old with his buddies. But it was just literally a piece of land, and he never built on it, never developed it, and paid taxes to the town, the city, for years and years and years. And the only way that I found out about this piece of property was that there was an overdue tax bill. And so as soon as we could, Granny put it up for sale, and it was sold to clean up some of the things. What else does that look like for some families? That might be like timeshares that you don't use anymore. Could be random shares in a company. I'll even admit that I did some personal cleaning up recently. I had a random share in Extendicare, and it was just always looming in the back of my mind that I had this and I needed to deal with it. And so finally I sold it this year when the stock price was up, and just to clean it up, because I don't need to have one random stock just sitting there.
Honestly, my very first thought when it comes to this, number one, is having that communication about it, first and foremost, with your parents, being able to have some open conversations about what's going on in their lives, because it doesn't look the same for everybody. My parents, my father and my mother, are both aging extremely differently. And so I think the really important thing is for me and our family and everything is to really communicate and talk about these things and have those discussions with them. My mom we often talk about this kind of stuff with her. She's the purge queen right now, like everything. She's getting rid of everything. She doesn't want to leave any messes for us to have to clean up. So we often have these conversations with her, and it's not an uncomfortable conversation. When we were on the cruise last year, Mom had expressed to Stacey and I that she felt she was experiencing some forgetfulness. Well, that's the part of aging that I really, really think is far more superior to anything, is to be able to have that conversation and that openness with your family members. And so that's kind of, I think, where it starts for sure. And I know that it's not an easy conversation to have. Not everybody wants to talk about their mortality. I'm a very good communicator, I think, and I have a really good way of approaching different topics. Sometimes not a great way, but sometimes a great way. So I think I can have that conversation with our parents pretty easily, but I'm also very much, if there's something that's kind of sitting around and needs to be dealt with, I just want to have that conversation. And like cleaning things up, it's like in my own brain too. It's, if I need to clean something up, I need to have that conversation right now. I don't want to wait another week or 2 months, whatever. So, that is very, very important. And I think with those conversations, then comes all the rest of the stuff, right? Like if you're able to have those chats, I remember Mom even reaching out when she was trying to pick her executor and power of attorney. She reaches out to me and Jay, do you guys want this job? We're like, hell no. But, she was comfortable enough to ask that and to talk about that. Super, super important. I think with our grandparents in your situation, I don't think Grandpa really ever wanted to talk about that. I don't know if he just didn't want to acknowledge that he wasn't going to be around one day, but even with his business, there was no succession planning. So one thing that is very like on our plate is this whole purging thing. Well, we're purgers. We get something new, we get rid of something. I don't know how we even ended up with that. I don't know. I don't even know where that came from. Our grandma was really good at that. Granny, when she knew her time was dialing down, well, she was incredible. She had got rid of everything and redid a bunch of crap in her house to make it more sellable. Yeah. So that when she passed away, it was easy to get rid of. Talk about awesome. So maybe that's where it all kind of started to stem from is Grandma being, pretty open about all that stuff. And so consequently, the one thing that we're always talking about is just, please don't leave us with your shit to deal with. This is a conversation that does come up in the salon. I wouldn't say it's super common, but everyone, once in a while we get talking about this kind of stuff. And I literally have clients that are like, I'll leave it to my kids. They can deal with it when I'm dead. And I'm like, but they don't want to. Like, hey, just going to let you know that's not really like, if you leave that, then instead of them being able to grieve you and your death, they are now scrambling to deal with all your shit. And that is not what they want. I'll speak for us all.
So that's kind of what I was going to get at. When you talk about communication, I think this is such an uncomfortable conversation for so many families to have, that I actually want to be the voice of the family members that can't say, clean your shit up. Right. And hopefully that the people that are listening to us talk about our aging parents, that they hear what we're saying. We don't want to deal with the physical stuff at all. And for the paper, but when I say paper, whether it's cloud-based or whatever, like even digital records, like that stuff, I feel like also needs to be addressed, because we don't have the full picture. Only the people that have that have lived with that have the full picture, right? And know what's important. Like I even think of like something like simple, well, it seems simple, as pictures. I think we've talked about this, how my office has been a mess because I've been digitizing all my pictures. When Granny and Grandpa passed away, I really realized quickly what the valuable pictures are. It's not landscape at all. It's not landscapes. It's the pictures with people in it, and telling me who those people are. Those are where the stories are from of life, is with your people that you love. That's why I was, when you're talking about communication, I think it's such a hard conversation. I do agree people need to talk about it, but if they're not going to talk about it, at least we can be the ones that say, start streamlining your lives, folks. Use your own agency if you're young enough still to take on some of these pieces. Make the decision making about your funeral arrangements. Don't leave. That was like one of the most beautiful gifts that Granny ever did give to me, I would say. And probably to the girls too, but like she had everything planned, paid for, so we knew all the decisions that were already made, and we could just grieve those days. And like, so grateful that Granny had all that sorted out. She got to make those decisions. I didn't have to make those decisions, and family didn't have to make those decisions either.
And that is powerful, to be able to make that choice and those decisions for yourself. That is lovely. As we talked about with Auntie Jean choosing maid, that is a lovely thing to be able to choose for yourself. Do you want to be cremated? Take care of that for yourself. Do you want a headstone? Go pick one out. Decide what you want. Great. And then you choose your path at the end of life, or as your future moves forward. And I think that is great. Like, who wouldn't want that? Where you make your own decisions and you decide that, and knowing you haven't left a big fucking mess for everybody behind you, that's lovely. I think that's great. I mean, at least I think like that, and we think like that. I don't know if everybody thinks like that. I mean, it's definitely challenging, but hopefully our conversation provokes a bit of thought in that direction. Hey, like, let's think about that. As everything living, death is inevitable. Or, and not even actually, let's not even say that. Illness, health, your ability to do such things changes. And I mean, it changes, it could change tomorrow for any of us. So it's important, I think, all around as we age ourselves to, like Stacey said, she was doing a little housekeeping of her own personal stuff with her stock. Well, it's important that we are always doing an inventory on things like that, I think, in life in general, because who knows what happens tomorrow for any of us, right? But the thing with aging parents is that you are aging, and the likelihood of things changing in your life are a little bit more likely than for, say, somebody in their 20s. They're just still trying to raise a family and get some kids on the go or whatever. It's a little bit different, but it definitely is important to keep things organized in your life. I think, like you said, Stacey, this is such a broad topic. There's so many things. I was scribbling down some notes about it, and I just thought, oh my gosh. But the real thing that I really came to was the communication is the absolute very number one thing. To have those, even for us on our end, to say this would mean a lot to us if these things perhaps were dealt with, so we didn't have to deal with it. So if you can't even talk to your family about that kind of stuff, and even having that conversation with yourself, like, yeah, one day I'm going to die. One day I may not be able to do all this stuff. One day I may not be able to, purge all my ex-husband's junk out of the crawl space at my house. Like things like that. You know, you got to do it while you can.
Yeah. Yes. To me, it's all about agency to make that decision. One of my friends was telling me that her parents, they're downsizing to a condo, apartment style condo, and it was being built. It was a brand new build, and it took a couple years to build. So they had purchased their space. They knew for 2 years that they had to move out of their house on whatever date. Anyhow, they did not get rid of all of their stuff in advance of the move out, and they ended up just getting a big like 1-800-GOT-JUNK bin and threw out so much stuff. That was really heartbreaking for me to hear that, because I find it very wasteful. There's lots of need in the community. If they would have taken that 1.5 years to downsize and to there's so much need in community that they could have, rather than just it going to the dump.
Definitely. And being wasteful. Like we already live in such a wasteful society that if we can reuse, recycle whatever we can, for other people, great. So the one thing that I think about, because I'm an overthinker and I think about everything real deeply, but when it comes to people, trying to deal with their stuff, it's an emotional thing for people.
Totally.
And I think that's how people end up with so much stuff.
I get that. That they've built a life and they've acquired these things. And it's the same for Sean and I. Like, we have a home that's like, I would not say it's cluttered in the least bit, but these are the things that we use at this time. If you went and looked around and are like, when was the last time I used this? I think if you haven't used it in 5 years at the most, that it's a good chance you're not going to need it. Yeah. Right? Like with clothing, it's like 6 months. If I haven't worn it in 6 months, put it in a box, see if you will pull it out in the next 6 months. If you haven't worn it in a year, you definitely don't need it, and you can easily get through clothes that way. But I know people are attached to clothes too. Like you never know when you're going to need it.
Like you said to Mom the other day, I can't remember what it was she was talking about getting rid of it. And you said, well, if it doesn't bring you joy, then get rid of it. Truthfully, Yeah. So
it's cluttering your mind too. So it's like peaceful to me to deal with it. And as our parents age, I would love for people to hear me say like, this is that I want you to empower yourself as you're aging and have the capacity, still mental capacity and physical capacity, to deal with your own stuff, and whether that's digital or it's physical, whether it's, just getting all the ducks in a row. But like, really, I think for a lot of people, it's the physical assets, things that families are put in a tough situation, having to purge that after a funeral or when somebody's sick and they have to move out and they're dealing with a home at the same time. Like, it's just so much. It's just so much. And it's such a mental burden on the folks that have to deal with it after.
I do feel a little bit different about that. Like I think it's important that people unload their stuff. However, I also can appreciate that some people maybe mentally are absolutely not capable of doing that. But I also can see that side of the coin too, where it could be just totally devastating for somebody to deal with physical stuff. I'll say that because I think that there are people out there that it's just they cannot. And I think I have some clients that might very well be like that. I think we were having a conversation about this where I said it would just be easier for us in some cases. This is not really the case for us with our parents, but in the grand scheme of things, it may just be easier to call that 1-800-GOT-JUNK to the dump and be like, get in this house and get rid of it all. However, keep in mind to anybody listening that if that's not the wishes you have for your stuff, then you best sort that out. But I do think with some things like that, it becomes more than just getting rid of stuff. And I think as people age and they start to lose family members, they become more attached to the things that perhaps are reminiscent of them, the family members that are no longer there. I think that people could hold on to things more because it's like all that they have left.
Mm-hmm. Surely, yes.
We just could go so deep into this.
Like I said at the top, I'm sure we can have conversations about health and money and like housing and all those types of things. Yeah. I don't disagree with you, sis, talking about communication. I don't know if this is always the easiest conversation for people to have. That's why I'm like, well, for me at top of mind is like, do us all a favor. If you're not going to talk about it, then clean your own stuff up yourself, you know.
Well, and this is how we're communicating with the people we love. Let's avoid our deep conversations and let's have a podcast and tell them all how we really feel.
Mom will be more challenging than dad. Dad doesn't have a lot of assets for us to deal with, but mom obviously has a home and a vehicle and things. So as we said, like, she's been purging. And I think that's actually, you know, mom volunteers at an organization where people can donate items, and so do I. So I deal with primarily clothing. Mom does clothing a lot too, but there's also a housewares section. So she sees families dealing with their deceased relatives or they're aging and moving into a very small place and bringing carloads and truckloads of stuff to her organization to donate. I see clothes that were dry cleaned many years ago, still wrapped in there.
So crazy.
Yeah. And, you know, they've just been sitting in the closet for decades. And I'm not exaggerating when I say decades. Mom sees that, and so I see it, but she sees it a lot in the volume a lot more than I do, and I think that's what's really triggering her.
Sorry, Mom, we're using you as a total example tonight. Thank you for this.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think, you know, Mom's in a pretty good space in her life, and so it's becoming easier, I think, for her to. She realizes it's just some materialistic stuff.
Yeah, can't take it with you.
Yeah, and what's important to her? Her kids, her grandkids, her dogs, her sisters. It's kind of an awesome place to see your mom at. It's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's very cool. But yeah, we definitely are going to have some more chats on different areas of this whole aging parent game, because we could seriously chat for a long time about this. I know you and I, we get on tangents. Like, we talk to each other every day pretty much and can always talk for at least an hour because one of us gets rolling on something like this, and then next thing you know, we're solving all the world's problems one topic at a time.
I have one last thing to say. I think a lot of people hold on to things for what if situations. And, you know, like, what if I need those dishes for a big dinner? What if I need tools? What if I need like sleeping bags? Or, you know, like, the list is endless that we hold on to things for. And I feel like we're in a position now that you can borrow these things if you really needed them. And that's kind of one of the things that I've been thinking about lots lately. Would I need this more than once a year? Yes, no, I don't. Then how can I either share it so we can use it more often, or is there a way I can rent it? Right?
I love that idea. Yeah, that's a great thinking. I think that's a great way to live in general.
Yeah. And I think that as people go through their homes, and they will find homes, many, many homes for things that are needed.
Well, Sissy, I think that's going to wrap up our first installment of Aging Parents. We kind of went on a little tangent over a few things, but that's how we roll. That's conversation. That's how things go. Anyways, we'll get into some harder topics another day, but I know we are all deep into this right now in our lives, or it is not too far in the horizon. So you are certainly not alone, and hopefully we can share our stories to help you feel that way. Everybody listening, to all of our amazing listeners. And trust me, you guys, if you're dealing with this stuff, you should just share this with your parents or whoever. Like, just be like, hey, I listened to this really great podcast. It definitely gave me a different perspective. I don't know, whatever. Share it with them. Share it with the people you love. And maybe that'll just help give the hint a little, like, hint, hint, this is what we're thinking. But anyways, let's move on to our peaks, pits, and plans, you guys. Or Sissy, let's move along.
Yeah, you go first this week. I went first last week.
Okay, well, I have 0 pits, which is awesome. Yeah, it's so good. Honestly, I was thinking about this too, and I was like, oh man, that is so lovely. Like you always say, it's like, yeah, it is freaking awesome to go through your week and be like, yeah, I've had a great week. It's been awesome. So peaks, Mark and I were in a golf tournament on Saturday. That was fun. We've been together almost 6 years, never been in a golf tournament together. We've golfed together, but not been in a golf tournament. So that was pretty fun. And then Canada Day was yesterday, and I came home for the Canada Day parade. They have it at the beach every year, and it's kind of a tradition. Our family's always gone to it. And so I came home for the parade. Mark was going to join me for that, but he got tied up fixing fence. Cows moved themselves, so we had to deal with that. But anyways, he came out as soon as he was done with that, and then we went to my aunt and uncle's place and had a visit with them. And then went out for supper, which was really nice. Just like a nice night. And then you know what I did to end the day off yesterday? I went and picked Saskatoon berries for 2 hours. And I got 25 cups of Saskatoon berries.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing, sis.
I didn't realize that my bucket isn't, I didn't think it was that big. I didn't even realize because I'm very much like pick what you need, and trust me, I will make stuff out of all these Saskatoons. There will be no wastage.
That's only 6 pies.
Only 6 pies. No biggie. I don't even usually make one a year. You guys met our brother, and was that part of the episode on there where he talks about how he loves Saskatoon berry pie? I think that was a conversation on that podcast. And so in my head, I was just thinking, I really, really want to make my brother a pie, or like some Saskatoon berry tarts or something. Like, I really want to do this for him. I love to treat him him and his family. And I like to bake for all kinds of people. But anyways, so I just had that in my head as I was picking these Saskatoons, and I got home and I didn't even have like an ice cream pail. I had this like fruit basket from, I don't even know where these things are from. They're old and whatever. That's the only thing I had. And of course I want to wash them all up and then dry them. And then I want to freeze them. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to keep some out because I want to make these pies. After all said and done, 25 cups in 2 hours.
That's a good haul, sis.
That's good picking. The whole time I'm like, thank you, creator, for this. This is such like a gift. Like, I felt so grateful for, that we can do that. In my yard, like, basically just walk down the street. I didn't even go down to the path or anything. I was just walking to the path and found this huge, huge patch in just nobody's yard. Let's move on to my plans. So that did it for my peaks. But tomorrow, so my uncle is from Switzerland, and his Uncle Hans, flew in from Switzerland yesterday. And I've had the pleasure of meeting Uncle Hans, I think, once or twice. And what?
I was going to say, he's been around enough, like a lot of times.
Yeah, anyways, it's like, he's hilarious. He's awesome. I love that man. And so he's only here. He's going to be going up to the Yukon and doing a canoe trip. He's 82 years old, you guys. This guy is phenomenal. He's so cool. So anyways, we're having Swiss cheese fondue tomorrow night. So I wouldn't have time to berry pick tomorrow. And then, I thought it was going to be hot for a few days. So I thought, if I don't pick them now, they might start to dry up. But it looks like we're going to get rain. So we might have like a bumper crop of Saskatoons this year, which could be great. And then anyways, so that's my plan tomorrow. And then on Saturday, I'm taking my dad golfing finally for his Father's Day, and his birthday's coming up. So we're going to be going golfing at Katepwa. It's one of our favorite golf courses that we like to golf at together. And then I'm actually going to be working on Monday. It's another Monday that I'm working this summer. And then I think that's pretty much it. I'll be at the farm briefly this weekend because I'm golfing. I got to pick some weeds, whatever. I think that's pretty much going to do it for me for my plans. Pretty just chill. Low key, just summer living right now. So that's it, guys. What about you, sis?
So pits. Well, I don't really have a pit because it's resolved itself, but I'll just say what was going on last week. I got like a sore in my mouth, just like a regular canker sore. And I'll be the first to admit to all of our listeners, because many of us are guilty of this, of hammering down a bag of salt and vinegar chips. I definitely did that and gave my mouth sores because I freaking love salt and vinegar chips. It's a very real thing.
Yeah, sure
and
is.
So anyhow, but it wasn't healing very fast. And then I started to get jaw pain. And I was like, oh boy, I'm going into a long weekend. I live in a small town. Like, the worst that could happen is that I get an actual dental issue over the long weekend, because I have no idea who's going to be on working what days. It could be Wednesday before I see a dentist. So I was like last Thursday. So anyhow, long story short, it's just, they think it's a micro crack, and my mouth is healing, and I'm supposed to wear a mouth guard, and I probably won't. I'll be totally honest. And I'm going to need a root canal at some point, but right now my mouth is fine. But that was
You were just going to town eating those chips so intensively you cracked your jaw.
I don't know if it was, no, I don't know if it was that, because it's a tooth that's cracked, right? Not my jaw, but he said it could have been something hard that I bit down on and cracked my tooth. It could have been something like that. Anyway, that was kind of like, I'm healing. So much so that I had salt and vinegar chips today.
And you're like, well,
yeah, I'm better. I'm eating chips, salt and vinegar chips
right
again.
back at her. Let's go.
Oh my goodness. So it's a pit, but not really a pit. Peaks. Well, life is great around here, honestly. Brother Neil, our not brother, he was here for the weekend, so the boys were super busy out mountain biking. But it's just, when I have company, and goes back to our episode about being ready for food, you just never know what's going to happen, right? Like, it's just, the boys come and go, and I love it. I love this time of year, and I love the vibe of it. So you just have to be prepared. And, like, we just had a very impromptu beach dinner one night this weekend, and it was so amazing because it just started off with what was just going to be the three of us. And then I invited Sean's boss and his wife and said, hey, do you guys want to come to the beach for dinner tonight? It was a heck yes. That was awesome. And then all of a sudden, then we were all down there for about an hour. And then another one of Sean's coworkers and his partner, and then another friend and a couple more friends showed up. I walked to the bathroom, came back, and I'm like, this is why I love living here so much, is that it's so light out here. It is so hot. It's like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. And it's just like glorious. All of Sean's work buddies, his coworkers, and just such good vibes. And I just loved it. It was so good. And it was an impromptu dinner. And yes, I had salad for that. I went to a couple of yoga sessions. I went for a solid walk with my new weighted vest. That was very exciting.
Oh my gosh, Stacey is your poster child for menopausal 40-year-old women with, I haven't seen it myself, but when she was telling me about it, I instantly had her painted on a TikTok that has 3 million views because we're all in it. And we're like, can't lose the weight. Our body's changing. Where's my bloody vest?
Yeah. Yes.
Who says? That's awesome.
Yeah, and then yesterday, like Chrissy said, was Canada Day, and I floated down our rivers for 2.5 hours with a bunch of pals and new people that I've never met before, and that was just great.
Hold up, I didn't know that because I didn't talk to you yesterday. Where did you guys get in, and where did you float to, or how did this go? I need more details.
We get in near the Fairmont golf course, and then we get out in the town of Fairmont.
Okay, so you're floating through Fairmont. It's not like you're floating from Fairmont into Invermere.
No.
Okay, I just needed to kind of have an idea of where you're at. Well, that would be beautiful because that area is gorgeous. So
yeah, 8-kilometer float, 7 to 8 kilometers.
Cool, that's a good time.
And then plans. Actually, this week is a short work week, and we have no plans for this weekend. I think I have an eyebrow appointment. It is quiet, which is great because, we'll record, but the following weekend we'll be in Kelowna. So, yeah, quiet weekend. This episode is actually going to be released on July 7th, which is the day before our dad's birthday. So this is Dad's Birthday Week episode.
Happy birthday to you, Papa Bear. Okay, I won't sing anymore.
So it's fun. This actually, having the aging parents episode on Dad's Birthday Week was totally unplanned.
Look at us nailing it.
Totally unplanned, but it seems very fitting. Dad, we love you to bits and pieces, and we want to have many more birthdays with you.
Happy birthday, Father. Well, when this is released, I'll have golfed with you already. So I hope you enjoyed your round of golf, and I hope that I smoked you. Anyways, happy birthday, Daddy.
Yeah. Sissy, why don't you thank our listeners and tell them where they can find us?
Thank you guys so much for always following along, for commenting, for sending us messages, for engaging with us. We absolutely are loving doing this. It's been so much fun. So you guys can find Sister Social Call on Instagram. You can find Stacey on LinkedIn or Facebook, and you can find myself, Krista, on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And that is going to do it for us. If you guys love the episode, please give us a review, subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you know somebody that would love the episode, share away, because the more people that listen, the more people that engage, the more our content gets out there. So please continue to do what you're doing and share the love. Thanks so much for listening, you guys.
Love you, sis.
Love you too, sis.